And I guess on that note, it's time we take some calls.
You called. Presented by Playground.
And brought to you by Playground, your premier gaming destination located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. The number that you have to call is a toll-free number, so it's free. And this is your opportunity to jump on a line and give me your reaction to what you saw tonight. The Canadiens lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus by a score of 6-4. Call us 1-888-585-SICK. That's 1-888-585-7425. And as soon as you give us a call, Sammy and Agnello are going to tell me who's on the line and where you're calling from, and we're going to get to it. In the meantime, I'm going to ask Sammy and Agnello to bring up a couple of comments while you jump on a line. Tanner Kendrick says the kids made mistakes, but what do you expect from rookies who have overachieved thus far? And Suzuki and Caulfield look fine tonight. So many chances for Caulfield tonight, and he was just unlucky, in my opinion. I find that Cole Caulfield, over the last couple of games, has been making some has coughed up the puck a little bit in his own zone. And but once again, I mean, if you thought that he was going to continue the pace that he was on and score at that pace, we knew that he was going to be off the pace a little bit. And once again, it's okay. He's young. It is okay. Other questions? As you can jump on a line and call me at 1-888-585-7425. If you've never talked to me in 20 years of radio and the podcasting over the last couple of years, this is your opportunity. B-Roll says, Tony, what were the reasons for the loss in your opinion? Some bad defensive plays, little bad luck. Goaltending wasn't great. They lost some very key faceoffs, some missed assignments, and they had some passengers tonight. That's it. They had some passengers, because if they were all going, they were going to beat that Columbus team that was decimated. But they weren't all going, and they had some passengers. Other questions coming in. Jack-Eye or Harris to Laval? That's the million-dollar question. I don't even know myself. It's funny because I asked myself who the development would be better for between those two players, and the answer, the thing I don't know is what the development is like at the American Hockey League level. What the development is like at the American Hockey League level. That's the thing I don't know. Wish I knew. Because we know it's good here in Montreal. We know that with Marty St. Louis. We know that with Stéphane Robida. We know that the concepts that he's preaching, that it's better in Montreal. We know that. So I'm not sure who to set down. I'm really not. And by the way, for those wondering, because I see some of the comments, we have calls. But I know who's calling. I've been told here, I'm reading it on a private chat line that I have with our people at Master Control. And when we started taking the calls, I mean, there were some calls that I thought just once I went back and I listened to them the next day, we're filtering out the calls. So if Agnello and Sammy recognize your voice, and I told them who to look out for, and we think there's a good call coming, well, then we're going to take your call. If we think it's not going to add value to the program, well, we're going to end up going to someone who is. Who's this? Paul in New Brunswick.
Yes, sir. How are you doing? Good. Thinking about the rebuild, I think it was only one person we really have to get rid of and trade is Jake Allen. We have an asset in Laval that a lot of people claim will never be a starter. And if we have Montalbo, Primo as our combo, we are going to win much less games. I don't think that would really
it's funny.
Overall,
yeah,
team playing ahead of them.
It's funny you bring this up because one of the things I said on the podcast was before Jake Allen was signed to a contract extension, I said, I'm torn on this because I like Allen a lot and I think he's a really good goalie. But seeing as I'm preaching the rebuild, I would trade Jake Allen. I said that because I said, if you don't, he's going to end up stealing some points, and the points, it's going to be counterproductive for this team. It actually, you're going to get more points in the standings, going to hurt you. A lot of people disagreed, and some people told me that Jake Allen wouldn't steal points. He has, and he hasn't even been at his best yet, and he's stolen some points.
Absolutely. Even Montalvo has stolen some points.
He has. He really has. Paul, what a great call. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. That's Paul in New Brunswick. Who wants to follow up on Paul? 1-888-585-7425. 1-888-585-7425. We'll continue to get to your calls right here on the Sick Podcast. Phil Doucette, I think we have to be careful who we deal this trade deadline. The team is already slim in many positions, and trading away key pieces could lead to the team taking a lot longer to turn that around. Well, they know that. You know, they're going to, if they're going to trade a player, the Canadians, before the deadline, it's because they think by the start of next season, they're going to have somebody in place who can take that player's place. Or they'll go out and they'll try and acquire somebody, an unrestricted free agency. But then you're taking a little bit of a gamble, but they know that. The Canadians are in good hands. With Gordon and Hughes, they're in very, very good hands. Very good hands. Says Roy, Tony, is this the end of the road for Drouin? Well, I mean, I don't see how they're going to bring him back. I really don't see how they're going to bring him back. It's your chance to jump on a line, 1-888-585-7425, 1-888-585-7425. We're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitter, and we're live on Facebook. If you're not watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely free. Message us, SICK, S-I-C-K, on all the social media platforms, and like this video if you like the Sick Podcast. And if you're going to give us a listen tomorrow on Google Podcast or Apple Podcast or Spotify, well, at that point, leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way with us. Lonnie says, what would the Habs get for Josh Anderson today? First and a prospect? You'd have to think. No? I think first and a prospect. I don't see how they would get less than that. Tony, where do you see Matheson slotted in? And Matheson's their number one defenseman. Suzuki over or under 100 points, Tony. This year, under. But I wouldn't be surprised if he hits that mark 1 year. John Wayne says Josh Anderson is definitely at least a first. Yes, 100%. Tony, a second and a busted first. I don't know. Eric Lavallee says in 4 weeks from now, it's first and a prospect. I believe that. I believe that. Other questions coming in. I got to take a sip of water. Hold on a second. Let me take a sip of water. My mouth is really dry tonight. For whatever reason, every time I take a sip from this water bottle, either from the tap or removing the tap, I get water all over me. I recognize this name. It's one of the names I told Sammy and Yellow. I said, if you ever see this name, this guy's a great caller. You patch him through right away. Luigi is in a Hunsick. It must be my buddy, Luigi D'Amore. Hello, Luigi.
How you doing, Tony?
Good. How are you?
Great show, like usual, Tony.
Thank you, Luigi. Thank you.
I watched the game tonight, Tony. It seems to be a bit of the past that we saw last year. The game itself was entertaining, 6-4. But there's some issues on defense, which is only normal. It's a young team, very, very young team here. The mistakes are going to happen, Tony. And going forward, this team is going to be playing 7 of the next 21 games at home and 14 on the road all the way to January. And they're going to be playing 21 different teams, not any team twice in the next 21 games. And it won't be easy because the Flyers are coming here. They haven't won in the last 5, and they were brutal tonight against Boston. and then they're going to be facing the Sabres on Tuesday night.
Yeah, but Louis, it all depends on which way you look at that, right? When you say the Flyers are coming here and it won't be easy, they've lost their last 5. Well, you'd rather play a team that's lost their last 5 than win their last 5. But I kind of look, I understand your point. I was looking at their schedule the other day. Where it really becomes, I think, most difficult is going to be starting on the 17th of December, Louis, when they host Tampa. Then a couple of nights later, they'll be in Arizona. A couple of nights after that, they'll be in Colorado. A couple of nights after that, they'll be in Dallas on the 23rd of December. They'll be off for Christmas, let's just say for 24th and 26th, 24th, 25th, maybe even 26th, travel later that afternoon or 27. Then they play in Tampa on the 28th. They play in Florida on the 29th. They play in Washington on the 31st. They play in Nashville on the 3rd, and then they're going to host the Rangers on the 5th before hosting St. Louis and Seattle. So their schedule from the 17th of December to the 5th of January, it's going to be tough. They're playing some really good teams, and they're playing a lot of those games on the road. It's going to be a tough schedule.
It's going to be a hard schedule for them, Tony, especially on the young guys. Right now, they're gung-ho. They're playing well. But down the line, I really believe they're going to make mistakes. It's only normal.
Yeah.
These young kids are going to make mistakes. But me, I figured that this team will finish in the bottom 7 of the league. And I definitely believe in the rebuild, Tony. I definitely believe there's Allen should be traded and get a good pick. Not because I want to trade him, but you can get something good in return going forward in the drafts coming up.
And Louis, if I can, you mentioned the schedule. After hosting Philadelphia on Saturday, the Canadians are going to be in Buffalo on they're going to host the Sabres on Tuesday. But the next night they're going to be in Columbus, and 2 nights after that they're going to be in Chicago, and that's going to be a 2 p.m. start because, of course, it's Thanksgiving in the United States, right? They're going to end up playing 3 games in 3.5 nights. 3 games in 3.5 nights. And then about 7 or 8 days after that, in the month of December, they're going to end up playing another 3 and 4 because they're going to be in Edmonton. And then a couple nights later, they'll be in Vancouver. And then the next following night, they're going to be in Seattle. So, man, their schedule, it's tough. And then the week after that, they're playing 3 and 4 because they have Calgary. 2 nights later, Ottawa, and then Anaheim. And there's a game on the road there in Ottawa, and there's travel in between. Louis, you're right. Their schedule, it's going to get tough, and it's going to get tough in the very near future here.
And that's going to be pretty well at the halfway point by January 5th. Maybe at game 40, 41, Tony.
Yeah. Louis, I know you're a big soccer fan. What did you think of our Canadians men's national team beating Japan in a World Cup preparation game today with Lucas Cavallini scoring in the 95th minute?
I was following it, Tony, and I was happy that they won this game. And I'm looking forward to the first game on Wednesday. It's going to be a special event on 2 occasions. Team Canada playing, and your 50th birthday, Tony, on Wednesday, yes. November 23rd, Tony.
Yeah. No, you're right. Wednesday is my 50th birthday, and part of me would love to be in Qatar, but you can't have everything in life. You know, in return, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be hosting the Sick Podcast, and I have my Sick Army here. And if I can't be in Qatar cheering on the Canadians men's national team, the next best place is to be here with the Sick Army, Louis. Thank you. And who knows, Louis, maybe you and I could watch the game together on Wednesday.
Anytime, Tony. Anytime.
Are you working on Wednesday, or are you taking it off?
No, I'm taking the day off to watch the game. I'm going to be
all right. So you know what?
We're going to watch the game.
Maybe we can get together and watch the game, Louis. I'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, Tony.
All right, there you have it. My buddy Luigi D'Amore from Mahunsik, who was, used to listen to my radio show at a previous radio station, and we ended up meeting somewhere at one point, and he's very much involved in the soccer world. He's in amateur soccer on a volunteer basis. He gives his time to help the kids out and help out a couple of clubs. He's a great guy, and became really good friends. And since then, he's come to watch, I don't know how many of my kids' games, but he's a real gentleman. Kennedy says he'll be He'll be. Will we be talking Portugal and Ronaldo? There's a lot of Cristiano Ronaldo to talk right now. Kennedy, I think that Cristiano Ronaldo made a mistake by saying what he said to Piers Morgan. Now, no one's going to lose sleep over it. At the end of the day, he knows what he's doing. It kind of just seemed to me as there was a settling of a score, and Piers Morgan asked him everything that he wanted to be asked. It kind of like didn't. I don't know. At the end of the day, he's one of the greatest footballers of all time, and I think it's really sad how his experience with Manchester United here ended for the second time around. You never want to see one of the best players ever go out like that. We move back on, and we take your calls. And by the way, to James Welsh, who said that this is a hockey show on YouTube, no, James, this is the Sick Podcast, and I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about, with all due respect, okay? If I want to talk about the World Cup, which is going to start on Sunday, which is the biggest sporting event in the world, I'm going to talk about it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to let you all know right now, for the duration of the World Cup, which is going to last, give or take, about 4 weeks, on every show, I will be dedicating a segment. It might be a short segment, but a segment on the World Cup and what happened that day. And of course, obviously, there's going to be a pretty big emphasis on the Canadians men's national team. Says Mr. Waneric, hello from Dubai, Big Tony. Thank you. Eric Lavallee, December 18th, last game. Fisherman says, I don't like watching soccer, but I'll watch the World Cup. Rene says it's a month. It's actually not a month, okay? Because it starts on the 28th and it ends on the 18th. So it's kind of like 4 weeks or whatever it is. Brazil versus, I'm not sure, but Brazil's going to be a tough out. They have one of the deepest teams I've seen in a very, very long time. Dominic is in Oakville. Dominic wants to talk Habs hockey. Dominic, how are you?
I'm here. I'm doing okay. How about you?
Good. Thank you for calling. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's on your mind, Dominic?
I just wanted to congratulate Tony on his podcast. I've been a loyal follower. I'm a longtime Habs fan. Never called into the radio show that he had before.
Yeah, no, you're on with me right now, Dominic.
I am. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's me. It's me. No. It's
Tony,
me.
Congratulations. I'm talking to you first. How come I didn't recognize your voice? Anyway.
I don't know. You know what? I've played with people in the past when they don't recognize my voice, and I tell them we're going on in about 10 seconds. I didn't want to do that to you, Dominic. I didn't want to do that to you. But go ahead. Hey, Dominic, it's good to talk to you. Continue, please.
Continue. I've been a loyal follower when you were on the radio station. Never called in then. But you got me tuned into your podcast on the post game. I call it the post game show, the other post game show that I used to listen to. So congrats to you. You're doing a great job. I love your collaborators.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I love Brian. I love Brian. Love Brian and George LaRocque. What a breath of fresh air he is, man.
Brian Wild of Global TV Montreal, George LaRocque of BPM Sport, Marc-André Perrault of TVA Sport.
Eric Engels. I never knew him at all, of course, being an English guy here in Oakville.
Yeah. Eric Engels of Sportsnet, Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette and HockeyInsideOut.com. And we're gonna have many more as well. I mean, we're just scratching the surface. You know, this podcast is relatively young. Yes, it's 2 years old, but this is a pretty new format that we went with, that we started just over a month ago or whatever it was. And slowly but surely, we're gonna get there. I'm very happy to say that the numbers on Monday night in particular, when Jeff Gordon was on, were like just outstanding. But we're building something here, one block at a time, and we're having a lot of fun doing it, Dominic. We're having a lot of fun.
Listen, I just want to tell you, I just, being a longtime Habs fan, I'm 15 years older than you are, okay? So I've been seeing a few things over the years. And I just love this management group, you know. You get guys like Jeff on, and like the other night, just to get that transparency that we never saw. Well, we haven't seen in years, right? Certainly under the Bergevin era, he did a lot of good things.
If I can, though, Dominic, I have to tell you that me personally, I never had a hard time securing an interview with Marc Bergevin. Now, I wasn't able to get it every day, and I really appreciated talking to Jeff Gordon, but I put in a request for Jeff Gordon, you know, originally about a year ago. So I have to, but I was really grateful that he came on the podcast, and what a gentleman too, eh? He makes his way to the Bell Center because the Wi-Fi is better there than it is in his apartment, and he goes out of his way. I mean, I'm not going to forget that. Very appreciated for sure. But I have to tell you, when you say the management group is very transparent and they're accommodating, I had a real good relationship with Marc Bergevin, and I never had a problem securing an interview with him. Never.
You know, and I'm sure you didn't, but I'll tell you, as a fan, from listening to, you know, Martin St. Louis' post-game comments, like, which I just absolutely like tuned right into. I saw him speak with Monsieur Ducharme. Honestly, everything seemed to be cold and calculated and guarded, right? Now the opposite is true, right? With the management group, whether it be Kent, Hughes, whether it be Jeff, like you had the interview, it's just like these guys they're just flying off the cuff. You know, they're just telling you how they feel. Like there's a real strategic openness. Do you know what I'm saying? And openness in terms of wanting to share that, right? And, you know, sometimes, they got to be a little bit guarded in what they say, you know, when you ask them certain, you know, introspective questions like you've often asked them, but they're still there, right? It's just awesome. It's awesome to listen to. And like I said, Martin St. Louis post-game, I love listening to that guy. Like, I mean, there's not every time I listen to him, I'm thinking I'm learning something, right? I'm learning about how he approaches the game, how he, you know, what player development's all about, how he relates to his group, and how he's trying to grow. Well, it's a breath of fresh air.
It is a breath of fresh air, Dominic, and they realize they're talking to the fans, right? They're talking to the fans, and the fans are taking it all in, and they're loving it, and they're enjoying it. And, you know, this management group and this coaching staff is really loved from the fans, and so is this team. And Jeff was saying it the other night on the Sick podcast, in our podcast, he was saying that, you know, last game of the season last year, and the team got a huge ovation, even though they finished last overall in the league. It was, you know, they picked the perfect time to rebuild. They sold it well. The fans have a lot of confidence in this management team. They have a lot of confidence in their plan. And I think it was long overdue. I mean, I don't remember when was the last time they did a rebuild. They had a great opportunity in 2009. It was the year of the centennial. They had about 10 free agents, and they chose to hang on to all of them because they absolutely wanted to make the playoffs. They did make the playoffs, but they got swept by the Bruins in 4, and then they lost all those players for absolutely nothing when they could have actually dealt them and stockpiled all kinds of assets. But they didn't do that. It was a mistake. They're not making any mistakes this time around. Like, when was the last time this management team made a mistake? Like, they're getting a lot of things right. They're getting a lot of things right, Dominic.
And you know what's going to happen? And I think you know, I'm not the first guy to say this and talked about, but I mean, we know what's going to happen at the trade deadline if everything fits.
They're going to sell.
You know, guys like Monahan will be gone, and
they're going to sell. Yeah. Dadonov will be gone. Drouin will be gone.
I'm hoping to get a first for Josh. Right? I'm thinking they will. Dadonov, you know, hopefully, you know, they're given every opportunity to shine, right? So they can prove his value. Like, everything just seems to make sense, right? And I've never been able, I haven't been able to say this for years as a longtime Habs fan, right? That things just, I don't want to say they're predictable, but they're logical, right?
I wouldn't be Dominic, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade a veteran defenseman at the deadline as well, whether it's Savard or whether it's Edmondson. And maybe there's more chance of Edmondson because he's a left-handed defenseman and they have a lot of more those in the pipeline than they do on the right side. But I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, Dominic, thanks so much for calling. Thanks for your support over all these years, even when I was working in radio. And hopefully it doesn't take you another 20 years to give us a call, okay? I hope to hear from you again sometime soon.
All the best to you.
I hope you can become a regular right here on the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro, and that clip you just watched is from our most recent episode of the Sick Podcast. Once again, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free, and you'll be notified when we go live. I'm Marinaro. Tell your friends about it. This podcast, like me, is pretty sick.